Welcome back to the program. We're just over 100 days away from the NFL draft. No longer do I have to say next year's draft. 2025 is here, and Green Bay is ready to host the annual event in late April. Our draft analyst Mike Renner has put together his latest mock draft on CBSSports.com. This is a look at the top 10. Mike doesn't have two quarterbacks going off the board ASAP. As you can see, Shedeur Sanders slides to 6 to the quarterback-needy Raiders. So we got Renner back here. We welcome in Ryan Wilson into the fold. Again, we're talking about Mike's mock draft, and then Ryan, of course, in a draft analyst in his own right, going to offer his thoughts as well. So looking at Cam Ward at number 1, take me through the thought process of, or was there need of a thought process to get him there, Mike?
It was a very simplistic thought process. It's we need a quarterback, and this is the best quarterback on the draft board. To me, Cam Ward, from a tools perspective, from a trajectory perspective, you see high-end performance, worthy of the number 1 overall pick. The guy got better every single year of his collegiate career, whether it's Incarnate Word to Washington State to now Miami, and he has a cannon of an arm. The amount of throws this guy has, like 60-plus yards down the field on his tape, is like triples anyone else in this draft class. The guy is willing to expand the football field, and he just has a creativity that you can't coach, a cool, calm, and collectedness in the pocket that if you're watching Will Levis and the jitteriness and the nervousness that it makes you as a Titans fan, this guy is the complete opposite. He is never shaken. Even after he throws a pick, he is just as likely the next play to throw a bomb down the football field as he is to throw another pick. The guy has no conscience at the quarterback position, and that's exactly what you want if you're this Tennessee Titans football team.
Hey, Tommy, one of our colleagues told us that Will Levis was next coming to Josh Allen, so I don't know what Mike's talking about there, but that's a conversation for another time. Everything Mike said about Cam Ward is exactly right, and sometimes it almost seems like the ice water is flowing too well through his veins because he's almost you want to see him get a little more fired up, but there's no doubt about his leadership, and when you talk to people at Washington State and the same people at Miami, they said through a fault, he is a fantastic leader. He does it quietly, and that's the biggest part about being a quarterback, other than obviously being able to throw the football and play in space. And Cam does those things incredibly well, better than anyone in this draft class. That said, there's some things that NFL teams wanted to see over the course of the fall, and I think he got better towards the last month or so in the season, playing on time, getting the ball out on time, not trying to play hero ball. And we saw some interceptions over the course of the fall that you leave you shaking your head because you don't want to make those throws or even incompletions that would have been interceptions at the next level. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's QB1 for me, clearly for Mike as well. And I'm interested to see what these next 101 days, how they unfold in terms of how NFL teams view these quarterbacks as well, Tommy.
Yeah, it's just interesting. It wasn't a good look in Week 18 to both have co-starters essentially for the Titans with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph go out there. And, of course, we know that the franchise already, from a front office perspective, making some changes ahead of the draft. All right, let's get to the Browns, which we had all this talk about Deshaun Watson suffering another setback, and yet so there's an opportunity, Mike, to take a quarterback, but they're not here.
See, to me, there are two guys in this draft class that I think are special grades for their respective positions. One's Abdul Carter, one's Travis Hunter Jr. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows about Travis Hunter, but I think Abdul Carter and the position he plays on the defensive side of the football, and the defensive line specifically for the Cleveland Browns, is something I'm really interested in because he gets after the passer at an elite level. And this is his first year ever doing it. The guy was an off-ball linebacker for 2 years. If you watch that game against Notre Dame, he was everywhere, whether it was against the run, whether it was rushing the passer, has a unique combination of bend, burst, to the edge to get back to the top of the pocket, create those big plays in the backfield that, if you pair him with Myles Garrett, oh my Lord, I don't want to be an opposing offense, and I just don't have a high enough grade on Shedeur Sanders to justify drafting him at number 2 overall. That's the thing here, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, is I'm in a window where I'm paying a lot of money to this roster. I need to win right now to save my jobs if I'm Andrew Berry, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, and I just don't have a high enough grade on Shedeur Sanders to say I'm plugging him in and he's going to be the answer for us.
Yeah, this is the pick you make if you don't want to get fired. I don't think Abdul Carter is good enough to save you from losing your job because he doesn't play quarterback, but he's a special talent. And we've said before, Myles Garrett wants to know the direction of this organization. Abdul Carter is a step in the right direction. And if you don't like the quarterbacks, or if the quarterback doesn't want to go to Cleveland, then you take this guy and you feel pretty good about it, and you regroup and come back in the later rounds to fill some of those other needs.
Let's get to the Patriots, obviously, with Mike Vrabel in the news cycle, guys. It's interesting because there seemed to be a consensus about team needs, like get receiver in the offseason, perhaps T. Higgins in free agency or whatnot. And then there's get Drake May some help on the line. Now, interestingly enough, you guys have both targeted an offensive tackle, but Ryan, you have a different person in Kelvin Banks, and you go Will Campbell. I'm curious, is it close, or are you guys different in terms of those two guys?
Well, I'm trying to project what Mike Vrabel would do here. And I think he wants a culture-setting, tone-setting left tackle, similar to what he had in a Taylor Lewan back when he was with the Tennessee Titans. And a guy that maybe he's not the best prospect at tackle, and maybe he's not the best prospect on the board, and for me he's not, but he's a guy who's uber reliable, who plays with a nasty streak, that fills a position that's so drastic of a need for the New England Patriots that you just can't go into next year without an answer there, saying, throw our hands up, we're going to pay someone in free agency, but there's no one good enough hitting free agency that's really going to solidify that position. So at that point, Will Campbell's the pick for me, but there are other, I could see going Kelvin Banks, but to me, I think Mike Vrabel will prefer Will Campbell's game of the two.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, Mike. Kelvin Banks Jr. is my OT1, but if you went with Will Campbell at 4, sign me up because you have to protect Drake May. The last few draft cycles, Tommy, the Patriots have drafted what felt like 50 interior offensive linemen, so they got that taken care of. Let's focus on the outside tackles that are going to protect the quarterback, who exceeded everyone's expectations, I would imagine, certainly mine. So I'm fine with Will Campbell here. I'm fine with Kelvin Banks Jr. here. Will Campbell probably is more likely to start in terms of being ready to start sooner than later. Kelvin Banks Jr. probably has more upside, but either way at 4, you got to take a tackle. I'm certainly okay with this.
All right, we mentioned Shedeur Sanders going to the Las Vegas Raiders at 6, and you had sort of hinted at it, Mike, that his stock actually maybe could be dropping by the time we get to late April. Again, give me the assessment for Shedeur.
I just think his tools versus Cam Ward's are drastically different. He has nowhere near the arm talent, has nowhere near the explosive plays on his tape down the football field that Cam Ward does. And I think you just see a lot of bad habits that you worry about when projecting to the NFL. How he deals with pressure, the way he drops out the back of pockets that just aren't going to necessarily translate. And he's also a guy with a big personality that's not going to fit into every team. And there really is only one team ahead of them after the Tennessee Titans that could draft a quarterback, and it's the Cleveland Browns. Everyone else has their quarterback at 3, 4, and 5. So for the Las Vegas Raiders, they still may get lucky here and have Shedeur fall to them. Or Shedeur might just say, that's where I want to go. That at the end of the day, that's probably where he's going to end up.
So the Giants are okay at quarterback? Is that what I'm hearing, Mike?
Well, sorry,
they desperately need a quarterback
I'm assuming
at 3.
the Giants sign one because they're the same reason where they got to save their jobs. You pin your hopes to a rookie quarterback, that ain't going to work out.
Yeah, Joe Shane's watching this going, oh, we have a quarterback. I'm all set. Great. I can move on to my other needs. Here's the thing about Shedeur, and I feel like, Tommy, we're 101 days away, but we're at the part of the process where we forget about all the good things that some of these players have done. And I know Mike doesn't love Shedeur as much as me, but even last year, the 2023 season, the way he was playing in October, November, there was some first-round buzz when you asked folks around the league about him. I thought he played a little bit better this year. He's not the athlete that Cam is, no doubt about it, but he does a lot of things really well. And demand outstrips supply when it comes to quarterback. The only exception was that 2022 class where Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback to go in round 1. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for Shedeur to go. This range isn't outrageous, and the Raiders would certainly be ecstatic about it. But I'm not willing to say that I don't think he has an opportunity to be a top 10 talent and perhaps outplay the expectations we have for him now. He's had 2 years of good tape at Colorado, and I expect he'll get better. And maybe he'll get better once he gets outside of the perceived or otherwise Colorado noise machine.
All right, and we're rounding out the top 10 with the Chicago Bears, and, well, they got the all-world running back, Shedeur there. And recent comps will tell us Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, 8 to 12, that range, and right now at 10, Mike.
Yeah, I think he firmly falls into that caliber of prospect, and also in a weak draft class, I think that only pushes up his stock. And if you're the Chicago Bears, yeah, a good offensive line will help Caleb Williams, but also a great running game will help Caleb Williams, as you're seeing now with guys like Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. That you give them those star running backs in a Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry type, you see a lot different defenses. You see a lot less too high against a guy like that. So I think Ashton Genty could be Caleb Williams' best friend. Obviously, it's going to depend a lot on who the head coach is, what kind of offense they're going to want to run. But if they want to get back to the ground game that was so absent this season in Chicago, Ashton Genty fixes that real quick.
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty transcends offensive philosophy, it feels like. And DeAndre Swift, to borrow a phrase from my buddy Pete Prisco, talking about Leonard Fournette, feels like he ran to contact, and he wasn't exactly hitting the holes hard. Here's the thing, if both tackles are gone, and this is an incredibly deep edge rush class, I'm fine taking Ashton Jeanty here to help out Caleb Williams. So I don't have any concern with this pick if Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks Jr. isn't there, which are bigger needs, and you can get an edge rusher, a legit edge rusher, after the first round. So take the running back here and help Caleb out, and then move on.
Okay, could be a nice little fantasy stack right there with Jeanty, Williams, Dunze, Moore. It seemed like it would be this year, too. It didn't exactly turn out that way for Chicago. Guys, sit tight. We're going to hit a break, but before we do, want to get a sneak peek at Mike's 11 through 20 of his latest mock, of course, that you can find at CBSSports.com. We will tackle that and some of the teams that just joined the others in the offseason coming up after the break. Once again, here's the middle tier of Mike Renner's latest mock on CBSSports.com. Niners select James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee at 11. And then Will Johnson, the standout quarter from Michigan, goes 14 to Indy. Broncos add some wide receiver depth with Luther Burden III coming to Mizzou at 19. All right, and let's start there in terms of trying to get the Broncos. We're talking about, by the way, teams that just exited out of the wild card round. So when we talk about getting some help here with Luther Burden III out of Mizzou, so much hype coming into this college football season with Brady Cook, and yet that production dipped by about half, almost 50%. Yet why are we still kind of bullish on him?
It was pretty gross to watch. I mean, his usage on tape, he was a decoy for that Missouri offense. And even when he wasn't a decoy, they just couldn't get him the football. So the production we saw as a sophomore, that's the guy you're getting when he gets to the NFL. Now, he maybe isn't the most polished route runner, but you can't teach the athlete that he is. I mean, at over 200 pounds, I fully expect him to run either the low 4.4s or the high 4.3s, jump out of the gym. The guy is just explosiveness personified. You saw it in his broken tackle rate, one of the best in college football this year. So even though he doesn't have the raw numbers, when he got opportunities, the guy made the most of them. So he maybe is more of a slot, gadget, sort of get the ball in his hands weapon at the next level, but that's like the Broncos offense. That's what they were missing all season long. So for the Denver Broncos, you saw it in that game against the Buffalo Bills, 4 drops in that one. You just saw the dearth of weapons. That's got to change, and change quickly for Bo Nix.
Yeah, and just go back and watch 2023 if you want to get a sense for who Luther Burden is. He feels like the Colston Loveland of wide receivers of this draft class because he didn't have anyone to throw him the football. I love the fit. It makes a ton of sense. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, add Luther Burden there, and then you got one more weapon at Sean Payton's disposal.
Bucs going with Jihad Campbell, a Todd Bowles type of guy. How's he fit in?
He's an off-ball linebacker that basically can blitz like an on-ball defensive end. I mean, this guy is a jumbo, nearly 250 pounds, the kind of off-ball linebacker that everyone's looking for in today's NFL, especially Todd Bowles, who blitzes as much, if not more, than anyone else in the NFL. So they kind of had that big issue next to Levante David all season long. Never were really able to replace Devin White, and even Devin White, when he was there, wasn't quite living up to his draft billing. So this is a guy that breakout campaign, still super young. I think the arrow's pointed up for him. And if you're the Tampa Bay Bucs, you saw that D-line and how good it was against Washington Commanders. Adding one more piece to that front seven, I think, would have pushed them over the edge, unfortunately, for Bucs fans.
R-Dub, let's get to your wheelhouse with the Steelers here. Emeka Egbuka to pair up with George Pickens. What do you think of Mike's selection there?
Yeah, hopefully George Pickens is still there if he can get his head on right. I love it. And Emeka Egbuka is a professional wide receiver, and he won't blow you away necessarily with his speed, although I would imagine he'll run pretty well. He's not Marvin Harrison Jr., he's not Garrett Wilson, but he does everything well. He can play slot, he can play outside, he can make contested catches, he can create separation at the top of his route. All things that the Steelers need in a number 2, and I love the idea of him being here. I've said it before, this feels like the lock pick for the Steelers, much like the Najee Harris pick was a few years ago. I also love Jahdae Barron here, who Mike has going a little bit later, the cornerback for Texas, but wide receiver is a bigger need, and then you can circle back and get a cornerback later. All
right, Mike, let's go to the Chargers. Tyler Warren, you wrote on your write-up there, he's a Jim Harbaugh kind of player.
He is, and Jim Harbaugh covets a certain personality type, right? And he covets a certain guy that plays the game a certain way. And all you had to do was watch Penn State semifinal and the fact that the passing offense ran through a tight end to realize that at the collegiate level, that never happens. That's a special dude. You know, Brock Bowers is probably the latest one. Colston Loveland, as Ryan mentioned, another one that when it happens, usually those guys are pretty darn good at the collegiate level. And so Tyler Warren, great ball skills, great at the catch point, something that just the Chargers do not have, and a guy that can inline block. So they don't have to adjust their offense whatsoever. He's not a Brock Bowers where maybe you got to move him around to get him involved in the run game. No, you can put this guy one-on-one against a defensive end and expect him to hold his own. Jim Harbaugh's going to see that, and he's going to run in the car at pick 23.
Yeah, Mike's right. This feels like a Jim Harbaugh pick. And I don't know if anyone helped themselves more throughout the fall than Tyler Warren. He was probably a late day 2, early day 3 guy. I think we talked about it over the summer, Mike. And now he's firmly a top 32 guy for all the reasons that Mike talked about. Just watch any Penn State game, and he is the offense. Half joking, Tommy, but he might have been the best quarterback on that roster for a couple games this season as well. But I think he fits in perfectly to what the Chargers want to do. And he feels like he won't have a Brock Bowers impact because no one will, but if you get 60% of Brock Bowers in year 1 and that doesn't feel unrealistic to me, then it's a home run pick.
All right, so from one wheelhouse to another, if we end with the Packers, Mike, you know, the last few weeks when we've had a live reporter on Sunday's show, we talk about how many injuries they had. Jair Alexander, Evan Williams, Quay Walker, secondary help here in the draft ASAP.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with Jair Alexander and his future as a Green Bay Packer, but even if he's in the fold, they need a second corner. We saw Carrington Valentine try to tackle Dallas Goedert in the flat yesterday. Jahdae Barron makes that tackle, the Texas cornerback. This guy is physical as it comes. He was a former slot corner that transitioned to an outside corner and just got better this past year for the Texas Longhorns. That almost never happens, and seeing it on tape was spectacular. His ability to play the catch point, outstanding. This is a guy who's a seasoned vet that the Packers are a team that need that help right now. They don't want a corner who's going to come in and be a project. Will he, won't he? They need a guy who's going to come in and hold down his side of the field from year 1. That's Jahdae Barron in this draft class.
And that'll do it. You can find that entire list from Mike Renner there on CBSSports.com. Ryan, certainly appreciate it. Ryan is the co-host of With the First Pick podcast. Check out and scan the QR code as the fellas are busting out their top 10 quarterback rankings from this draft class. And it'll be happening tomorrow right here on this network at 2 p.m. Eastern, co-hosted by Rick Spielman as well. All right, we'll switch gears from football to the association. The Pacers ended the Cavaliers' 12-game win streak. The Beyond the Arc crew tells us about the new hottest team in the NBA.